And welcome everybody to our 2020 Veterans Day Assembly, taking place one day after Veterans Day this year. I am very happy to be able to make sure that we're able to continue a tradition here at Northeast of honoring our veterans. So I'm glad that you're here for me and we're in this virtual format. The important part about today is making sure that we are here to support our veterans, both past, present, and future. So thank you so much for being here today. This is a more serious assembly as opposed to a pep rally where I want to make sure as we go through this, even though we're all in different rooms throughout our building, making sure we're safe and socially distant, that we have our minds and our hearts in a place of reflection, thinking about all the sacrifices that have been made for us. So we have the opportunity to be here today. So I appreciate each and every one of you for being here to give your time and attention and respect to all of our veterans. We will be sharing this presentation with our community, so thanks again for being a great audience and for being here today. Let's get started. The Allied power signed a ceasefire agreement with Germany at Rethandes, France at 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918, bringing the war now known as World War I to a close. Between the wars, November 11th was commemorated as Armistice Day in the United States, Great Britain, and France. After World War II, the holiday was recognized as a day of tribute to veterans of both world wars. And then, beginning in 1954, the United States designated November 11th as Veterans Day to honor veterans of all U.S. wars. So this is the history that we are a part of today. It goes deep into our past, and we get to take that and bridge it into our future. So thank you so much for being a part of it. Now, this is where I need your help. Even though we're in different rooms, we are going to play our national anthem. And I need you, if there's a flag in your classroom, to please stand and face the flag. I'm going to stand as well. If there is not a flag in your classroom, please face the flag on your screen for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Please have a seat. In the past on Veterans Day, we have been fortunate enough at Northeast to have a ceremony and a speaker to commemorate all of our veterans, our local veterans. Things are different this year, so since we need to be safe and socially distant, instead of bringing veterans into our school, we are going to reach out as a school to support our local heroes. And one way that we can do that that is really cool and local is something called the Honor Flight of the Quad Cities. So the Honor Flight is a national organization where they try to make sure they're able to take veterans of all U.S. armed forces and foreign wars and fly them to Washington, D.C. so they can see the memorials, so they can go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and to make sure that they're able to get the gratitude and respect that they have earned with their service. So we have a local chapter that flies out of the Quad Cities, and right now they give top priority to World War II and Korean War era veterans, or any veterans with a terminal illness. And again, the intention is to honor the local heroes who are selfless in their duty with a free trip to visit their memorials. That's one of the best parts about this, the Honor Flight of the Quad Cities, is that this is done at no expense to our veterans. It's people who give their time and money to help provide an opportunity to recognize them and show our appreciation for their service. So they have had a hard time due to COVID with getting the donations they typically would get. So I'm really happy that our Northeast community this year is able to recognize the work that this organization does. And we're going to have an opportunity that I'll tell you about at the end of our assembly today, that we can pay it forward, that we can be a part of this honor flight, that our own contributions can go directly to veterans and help show them how much we appreciate them. I am honored to be able to have an interview with Mr. Troy Hansen, our activities director. Mr. Hansen has actually been on an honor flight that was in recognition of his dad, Craig. He's going to answer a few questions that I have. And the purpose of this interview is that so you can hear someone who's actually been on this flight, what it was like, what it's about, and why it's so important. So, Mr. Hansen, I'm glad that you're here with me today.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to kind of speak to this. So, you know, one of the things that I want to say before we kind of begin is, you know, I'm not the only one in our community that has had the opportunity to go on an honor flight, and neither has my dad. We have had numerous veterans in our area go on the honor flight, and others that were guardians like myself. So, for those out here hearing this, if you get a chance, you know, talk to our local veterans, talk to our local community members who helped with the honor flight. They have phenomenal stories that are just as good, if not better, than anything that I'm going to tell you today.
Thank you. So my first question is, could you please explain how you became aware of the honor flight and the process that it took to get our veterans signed up?
So I think the biggest thing that got many people aware of the honor flights is that our local television stations like Channel 6 and Channel 8 do a phenomenal job of being there to welcome our veterans home from the honor flight late at night. And so that kind of publicity has given veterans the opportunity to say, you know what, that's something that I want to do. And that was kind of the incident for my dad, that he saw it on the news, and kind of took it upon himself to sign up online. Him and a friend did it. I know that local chapters of the VFW and American Legion posts, they will actually do the signing up the veterans, whether they know it or not, because they want to give the veterans that opportunity to head to our nation's capital and to see those particular memorials that are there that help honor them.
Excellent. So we've been talking about being an honor flight guardian, but what exactly does that mean? What were your duties as an honor flight guardian?
So an honor flight guardian is basically just that, what the word means, guardian. So, you know, on our particular flight, there was 100 veterans and then 50 guardians. And the guardian's job was basically just that: look over the veterans, make sure that they were taken care of that day. If they needed anything, a bottle of water, a help up out of the bus seat, you know, be there for them as a support, not necessarily in a babysitting role, but to be able to provide them any opportunity that you could to help them out, because it is a very quick day. You know, they get there real early in the morning at the airport in Moline, and fly out, and then they come back late in the afternoon. And the day itself is just full of things that the veterans get to do. So for a guardian, it was kind of the same process as the time that my dad signed up to be on a flight. I actually signed up at the same time to be a guardian. And so it was a great opportunity to go and not necessarily be with my dad as a veteran, but just to be with all of these veterans and to give them, you know, any opportunity or experience that they could that normally they may not have of.
And you sort of mentioned this already, that it was a great experience for you. What was rewarding about this trip from your perspective as a guardian?
Well, one of the things about a guardian they tell you is that it's really not a vacation for you. You know, the day is not for the guardians. It's more for the veterans. So, you know, approaching it like, hey, I've got a very, very special job to do because we want to make this special for our veterans. And I think the local chapter has done a very good job of training their guardians to do that. But some of the rewarding things for me was the experience itself. Being on a flight and on bus trips and stopping at the monuments and memorials to see the interactions of the veterans. It is really truly a brotherhood, like a lot of them say. A lot of the veterans do not know each other when they're on these flights. And for them to strike up conversations and have conversations like they've been friends for 50 years, to me, that was really, really meaningful because they all were in service at some point in time, whatever branch of the military it was. But at the end of the day, they all had a common understanding of what they were here for and the service that they provided to our nation. So to me, that was probably one of the most interesting things. And it is a very emotional day for the veterans. You know, there's always some laugh and some silly times that some of the veterans will do, but there is also some very somber moments. And to be able to be a part of those moments is very, very special to me. And then to be able to do it with my dad on that flight was even more special.
Thanks for sharing that. My last question, on the flight back, they have what's called a mail call. I'm wondering if you could share with our students the importance of the mail call and what that means for the veterans.
Yeah, so the mail call is extremely, extremely important to anybody that is in the military service, whether it's in the past, current, or maybe in the future. Mail call is very important to our soldiers that, you know, back when there was no email, there was no FaceTime, no social media, mail call was just that. An officer who was in charge of the mail would basically call each soldier's name if they had mail. And that mail was letters basically from home, you know, physical letters. And for a lot of our soldiers that, whether they were serving during a time of conflict or a time of peace, you know, those letters were their only connection to home, their only communication. And it really helped those soldiers kind of get through some of the tough times if they were experiencing something. But it also gave them a little sliver of normalcy during any sort of time of their service. So the mail call was basically that. And then on the honor flight, it was the same way. Each veteran got their name called and they were handed a package that had letters in it. Some of those letters were personal letters from family members that they were writing to their specific veteran that went on the flight. And a lot of the letters were actually from community members that the veteran may not have known. And they also came from students of schools. So, you know, these letters were mostly like, thank you for your service. You know, thank you for providing, you know, protection for our freedoms. And that was very, very, you know, kind of a emotional time for the veterans, but it was also neat to see their eyes kind of light up and smiles and things like that because they knew they were being appreciated for their service.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Hanson, thank you very much for sharing your experience and insight and answering a few questions so our students and community could learn a little bit more about the honor flight. I appreciate your time and thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, moving on. One more interview with an honor flight guardian, Miss Betsy Mesmer. She has been on 4 honor flights, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her experience. And again, we're zeroing in on that mail call because that is the place where our community, our school community gets to make a difference this year. So I appreciate your attention and your seriousness and presentness with purpose. And here is a brief interview with Betsy Mesmer. Well, hello. I'm very fortunate today to have Betsy Mesmer on the other line with me. Betsy is from Bettendorf, Iowa. She's been on 4 honor flights with the Quad Cities. 3 of them, she has been a bus captain, helping make sure that our veterans get to all the different locations in Washington, D.C. and see everything they need to and are able to stay on schedule. and she's also been fortunate enough to be a guardian for one of the flights. So I've got Betsy on the phone with me here. I'm going to ask her a couple questions, and we're very fortunate to have her tell you about what it means from her experience going 4 times to take part and help support the Quad Cities honor flight. So, Betsy, I'm glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
My first question is, I want to start about if you could just tell us and all of our students in our community here about what it means for you to have been a part of this for the 4 trips that you've been on. What has it meant for you as a person to be able to do this and keep wanting to support help this cause?
It gives me great pleasure to work with the gentlemen and women who served our country. I enjoy watching their emotions as I see their memorials that have been made for them. It's quite a humble experience overall. It can be also a very enjoyable experience, and you make new friends. A lot of guardians will continue to keep in contact with their veterans that they went with, and so you meet new friends. It's a very enjoyable time.
Excellent. Now, I know that you've had a lot of different experiences on it, and I'd like to shift for the point of view of the veterans on this trip. What are the moments that they seem to appreciate the most about this opportunity?
I think part of it is that they are being honored, especially our Vietnam veterans. If you've done any study with the history, any of your students, they know that the Vietnam veterans, when they came back, were not honored as they came back. In fact, most of them were disapproved of. So it gives them recognition that they deserve. The World War II and the Korean veterans also, they get their time to be expressed thank you for their service. I see in them there is a difference between the World War II and the Korean versus the Vietnam as they go out. The World War II veterans seem to be very appreciative, very emotionally attached. Some of them have not ever talked about their experience, and the same with the Korean. Sometimes it opens up a little bit, some doors for them, and they start talking about it. The Vietnam veterans are also very appreciative, but they probably show a lot more emotion. Especially my experience with them is when we get to the Vietnam Wall and they're looking for some of their fellow comrades who did not make it back.
Excellent. Well, it's really interesting that you're able to see differences just depending on the wars and the conflicts that these veterans were a part of. Again, I'm really grateful for your time. And the last thing I want to ask you about is a really special part of the trip. It's all special, but this one seems to be very popular, and it's actually an opportunity where our students might be able to help out as well. Can you tell me about the mail call that they have on the phone?
I don't know how familiar everyone is, but during the war times, they always have a mail call, and a lot of your soldiers are looking forward to that. Their letters from home. So what we do on the flight back, and we try to keep it as much a surprise as possible, we try to contact a family member if we can, because personal letters or drawings are very nice. But we also contact volunteer groups that are willing to write letters thanking the soldiers, the servicemen for their service during their time. Or we've had people do drawings. The only thing we do ask is that is something that can put into a business size envelope. We cannot accept like buttons and candy bars and stuff like that. It has to be something that can be folded to put into a business size envelope. Letters.
Even as much as we would want to take candy bars and buttons, we really
yes.
need to make sure we keep it with letters.
Yes, with letters. And then we hand them out. Each veteran receives a packet. Even if we weren't unfortunately able to get a hold of a family member, each veteran receives letters at that time which they can read. And going back a little bit to what I see in the veterans, this can be a very, very emotional time for them, especially if they get family member letters. So if you could help with that, if there's something that might be possible, that would be something very grateful. We are always looking for them, so it's something that we can do. Yeah, I mean, we keep them, and eventually they'll get used. They'll never get thrown away. We just continue to add to them and send them out.
Right. And what I really like about that too is that these letters go to veterans in and around the Quad Cities and Clinton and all over Eastern Iowa who are on this flight. So we know that the letters that hopefully our students and community will be able to write for veterans, they'll be going to veterans that are just from right here in our own community. So I think that's fantastic. Just to ask a follow-up question real quick, do they need to be letters? If we had students who wanted to make or work on some artwork like drawings, would that be acceptable, or does it really need to just be written word?
Nope, we can accept drawings as long as it is foldable and can put in that a business size envelope. We've had, in fact, a lot of them when we call family members, we'll have grandchildren draw a picture of grandpa or grandma in an airplane if they were in the Navy or Air Force or whatever they were in, or sometimes they don't always get it right either. Sometimes we've had them in the wrong ship or the wrong airplane when they've been in a different service. Right. But pictures are great also. Maybe you can even if you can do something that's flat, like a little badge type thing without a pin. Of course, you don't want the pin on it, but like a little badge that has like some ribbon on it. Anything that can go flat, because you realize that we take over right around 100 veterans, and when we carry these and we have all these letters, we have to be able to put them in an envelope, a big envelope for them. So that's how we stay with the letters.
All righty. Well, I'm so grateful that you're able to be with us here, and I'm wondering if there's any last thoughts you'd like to share with our students before we let you go today.
I just think what you guys are doing, what you've done in the past, unfortunately due to COVID, you can't do what you've done in the past, but it sounds like you've done a wonderful thing saluting our veterans. I think that is a wonderful thing that you are doing, and that you should continue with it. Hopefully in 2021, you'll be back to where you can have your big ceremony that you usually do have, your big celebration. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about Honor Flight. And if you do get some people that want to write letters, feel free to write them, and I can get you an address where you can mail them into.
Well, absolutely. I'll collect them, and I'll make sure we get them sent out to you. So thanks again for your time, and I'm going to let you go. But I'm so grateful that you were able to give up some time to work with our students in our community. And I look forward to sharing what we're able to create with you for our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hello. Well, thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen, through those two interviews. So that is the background and what it means to be a part of the Honor Flight of the Quad Cities. As we wrap up our virtual assembly today, I want to talk about how we're going to help out going forward as a school. So you will have the opportunity to create submissions for the Quad Cities Honor Flight mail call, and I am going to collect those in my office. So letters and artwork are great as long as they're on paper and can fit into that envelope. We're going to give you more information next week. You'll get it from me. I will email each and every one of you, and from your WIN teachers as well. You can drop off your submissions to me in my office through December 22nd, and then I will forward them on to make sure they're given to veterans. So remember, there's a key part in there. They try to get letters and pieces of artwork from the surviving relatives of the veterans, but that's not always possible. So the work that you make, the letters of gratitude that you may write and submit, they may go to a veteran that does not have someone in their family they're able to get in contact with, and that could make all the difference in the world. So today, as we wrap this up, I want you to take just a moment to think. So I've got maybe one of two groups that you could fit in. I want this to be a silent moment just to think and process and reflect. So the first group, Maybe you have someone in your family who is a veteran of one of our armed forces. Maybe you have someone who's currently in one of our armed forces. And my question for you, think about that person in your life. What do you appreciate about their service? What sacrifices have they made or do they make? And if you could share anything with them, if you had a moment to share a letter or piece of artwork with them, what would you say? Finally, if you don't have a veteran in your that you can think of in your past or currently, that's okay. But think about all of our veterans, and they gave their time and their energy and their sweat, and some have even given their lives so we could be here right now and have the freedoms that we enjoy. Think about the people who have made these sacrifices for us. What do you think they might appreciate reading in a letter from you or getting in some artwork from you? What might they appreciate if you had an opportunity to reach out to them? Let's take a moment to think about that. Thank you. So next week, we will learn more about how we will be able to make these submissions to support the Honor Flight of the Quad Cities. For now, this is the last part of our assembly, and after this, we'll wait for dismissal. I need you all to please rise, face the flag in your classroom or on our computer screen. Please put your right hand over your heart, and together, please follow my lead. We will say our Pledge of Allegiance. Please repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for your attention today. Thank you for all of your seriousness of purpose, and I cannot wait to see what you submit to honor our veterans. Thank you.